Welcome to you all. My name is Andrew Chung, artistic producer of London Symphonia, and today for Behind the Music, I've got with me Gary McAuley. Hi, Gary.
How are you, Andrew?
Tremendous, thanks. Glad you're here. And I've also got Scott Good. How are you doing, Scott?
Very good, thank you.
Tremendous. So we've got this concert aptly called Christmas with the McAuley Boys on December 9th coming up at Metropolitan United Church. So, let's dive right in. I want to go down memory lane, Gary. I want to get a sense. There's the four brothers, right? You've got yourself, you've got George, Mark, and Randy. You grew up in Grenada. Mother, Rita, and Winston, and some kind of magic was brewing there. Where there must have been a lot of singing in the home to foster the talents of the four of you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, we grew up in London, Ontario, but we grew up with Grenada sensitivities, and you couldn't help but doing that because our parents were both from Grenada. I was born here in London, Ontario, along with two of my other brothers, but one of us was born in Scarborough General, a New Year's Day baby. That's Mark. So we always sing him happy birthday and happy New Year's at the same day. On the same day, our dad was a lead singer of a band in Grenada called the Minstrels. And his moniker was Cane Juice because they said his voice was so sweet. So when he married my mom in 1969 in Grenada, and then 2 years later they found them. Well, actually, immediately they found themselves back here in London after he had a 2-year stint in New York singing with the band, writing, cutting records and whatnot. And my mom was in Red Rock, Ontario, teaching. So they went from Canada and New York down to Grenada to get married in 1969, came to London, and then 2 years later I was born. And then in that time, I'm raised by these islanders. So there's a Grenada sensitivity along with our Canadian roots. So also hearing him sing in the house all the time and whistling, and he was just so melodious that we couldn't help but get that bug. I started playing when I was 3 on the piano, picking notes from the radio and mimicking the melodies I was hearing. And my mom looked at Dad and said, "We should put him in piano because he clearly has an aptitude for this, and he's got an ear for it." And then Suzuki method of piano into Royal Conservatory method, and going all the way through until I decided. Playing the Kiwanis music festivals, the arts festivals, high school musicals and plays, and then it fast forwards to Faculty of Music at Western, where I knew when I was 12 or 13 I wanted to do this as a profession, but then it was like to the point where I have all this classical sensitivity, but a big pop lean with my ear work, and all that came together in university where I said, for sure, this is the career on that I want to choose the path.
And so what's the range of years between you and your brothers?
So yeah, there's a 13-year range between myself and Randy, who's our youngest. So there's me, then 2 years later, George. 5 years after that is Mark, and then 6 years after that is Randy.
And so in the 1990s, so you're going to Western University. Presumably, it's primarily a classical music department at that stage. Was there a jazz department maybe too?
Not really. There were people who played jazz. I think there was some jazz. I think there was a jazz. I think there had been jazz ensembles, brass, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Big band, in small, like in a kind of in a smaller way. I wasn't actually in that ilk. I was more kind of rogue because This pop R&B sensitivity was not at Western at all. But I'm bringing all my classical to the table. So it actually was a good mix for me personally.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
And I maybe you're a trailblazer in some ways. I think that the faculties of music are much more flexible these days, right? With taking those preferences, that pop sensitivity, and kind of thinking, okay, this musician wants to go in this direction. Well, let's try to create something that fosters this. And so, yeah, 13-year age difference between you and the youngest.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
singing in the home, dad singing all the time. Was mom also musically inclined?
She was actually. She had a big family. There were nine siblings and eight girls, one boy. And they actually used to sing in arts festivals in Grenada, and they were known as the Mark Sisters. So there was always some kind of music going on in the house. You couldn't escape that when I was young. That's for sure.
I love it. So Western University, then you start thinking, okay, what can I do in the commercial pop world? Or I think you had this connection with Stefan Machio, legendary, producer, writer, arranger. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Stefan and I, we were both coming back from a Tragically Hip concert, and the noise was ringing. We left it early because it was really loud for us. We walk out. We end up walking out at the same time. I don't realize at that point that he's in the faculty with me because it's Frosh Week. And as we're walking back one evening, I said, "Wow, I'm holding my ears." He's holding his ears. I said, "That was loud." He goes, "I'm Stefan. I'm Gary." And we literally met like 2 days in. Um, and we found out real quick that we both like pop music, that we had the classical lean. It led to going to practice rooms and just writing music. We were just like, let's get together and write. So we just wrote reams of stuff in a short space of time. And you talk about trailblazing back then. There were a bunch of us in that little small group that we used to hang around, and just chat, and talk about life outside of classical music, or even like taking this to an entrepreneurial level. Stefan was one of them. Victor McAuliffe, also of you might know of Canadian tenors at Tenors. He was also in our little small group of people, and I think there may have been a trailblazing type of thought process back then. Um, but it's interesting how Stefan and I got together and started making these popified classical tilt tunes. It led to us sending one of those demos that we created to producer David Foster, and the two of us decided that we wanted to meet him. We asked him for a 15-minute meeting in Los Angeles. At the time, he was like, producing The Bodyguard. He was producing Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, Michael Jackson, the Bee Gees, Madonna. I listed. He was with everyone. So we fly up to LA. We get a 15-minute meeting, which turns into 8 hours in the studio with him.
Oh, really?
Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was a big day. And pull aside, we're with the producer, like the king of pop music production. And so I asked him, I said, how do you do it? How do you make it in this industry? When we had a sidebar and we're sitting down having coffee um, in between takes in the session, in a break. And he says, you remind me, he said to me, you remind me of Richard Marx. He asked me this same question when I first met him. And, I said to him, just keep doing it. It's going to come. You just keep doing it, and, it'll become you. And as he said, keep doing it, I said, I took it home. So Stefan and I are sitting there with him, and we're asking these questions. And what I took from it is just keep doing it. I came back home after that 5 days in LA, and I said to Mom, and this was like late October of 1994. I said to Mom, this is what David said to me. And she said, okay, go into the studio and make a Christmas album and release it this Christmas. And I'm thinking, oh, it's November the 1st now. I'm going to produce an album and then have it out in like 3 weeks. So that's what happened. Went to town on
really
arranging.
What happened? You put that out in 3 weeks?
It was planned in 2 weeks. In the studio for 6 straight days. Like I think I had 9 hours sleep in a week, and then deliver the album to Toronto for production. Get it back December 1st, and from December the 1st, I may be messing the history of it all a little bit, but we went from December 1st to December 24th with probably 3 shows a day, whether it was radio, television, or an in-mall performance, and or concerts. So it was intense. There was no sleep. We were in instant tour. My mom and my Aunt Noreen, one of her sisters, invested in it for us. We got their money back in like 10 days and they made a profit like instantly. So it was a beautiful time to find out how you do it, what you do, and just staying on your grind. And the keep doing it motto is something I share with other people who want to do it, is you just keep doing your thing. There's no like magic wand or anything like that. You just have to be it and do it.
That is tremendous advice. And what a story. Oh my gosh. 3 weeks, hey, Scott?
Beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing this. This is really interesting.
My goodness. And then that Christmas album ended up being incredibly popular. In terms of topping those charts, I don't know where it ended up, but year after year, it absolutely that album was very, 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 very well played. It's still well played.
Thank you so much. We never knew that 30 years later, here it is, right? But it was at the height of it. We were in the mall at Yorkdale doing an in-store, and someone came up to me and he said, "Do you realize that your album is now second to Bryan Adams as the holiday album release in Canada?" And awesome. We were thinking, yeah, it was something else, because we had done a Cadillac Fairview Mall tour, so we saw every single mall from Windsor to Montreal, and we did these little 17-minute shows where we'd do 4 songs, and then people would line up and we'd sign out CDs. So it was in stores at HMV, in stores at Sunrise, A&M, Sam the Record Man. You might know some of these names. We did every one of them, and Eaton Center downtown Toronto, Bay downtown Toronto, Yorkville, Fairview,
oh my
Lansdowne.
goodness!
Just go on.
The mall circuit. And
it taught you a lot, because you had to sing Christmas at a time, and you're looking out at unfriendly faces trying to buy gifts for their loved ones, and then they're stopping for a moment to be with you, and it literally was every face. It was like a United Colors of Benetton that you saw all the time. And after 17 minutes, we actually, it was a blessing that we had like 100% almost buy-in. People were cheering and clapping and singing along and dancing to Drummer Boy, and then we were signing albums and then next rinse and repeat. But it really taught you how to be quick on your feet, because you had to MC, you had to sing, you had to entertain, like, to an unfriendly audience that over time became friendly. So it was a good cutting the teeth exercise.
Oh, nothing like it. And of course, we're bringing some of these favorites from that Christmas time album, wonderful Christmas time album, to this London Symphonia concert. So Scott, I feel so badly. Whenever we have a great idea, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the Scott Good Show. So we put Scott onto it, and then he gets the creative juices flowing. And of course, beyond the McAuley Boys joining London Symphonia, there's some other guests. So, at Metropolitan United, it's a wonderful venue partnership for us, but they also have this amazing music program. There's an adult choir and there's a choir school. And so you got talking to Greg Redner.
Yes. Yes. As I'm sure many of you listening know, we recently launched a stage as well. And so this was in partnership with the Metropolitan Church. So it just seemed like a really appropriate time at Christmas, which is a big community event, to have them join us on stage and sort of celebrate our new partnership. So it's been really wonderful working with Greg at the school, and we did have a rehearsal with the choirs and both the adult choir and the youth choir, and they've been working really hard to prepare the music, and we're really excited to have this partnership to bring to stage on the 9th.
And so there will be some choir features, and they have their own few, we're not going to say, but a few surprise soloists as well from within the choir.
That's right.
And then there's a blend of music with the choir, the Symphonia, and the McAuley Boys.
Yes.
And then at some moments for the choir themselves. Anyway.
Yes, lots of variety. So that's something really important to our program, is we want to everybody who's participating have their own special part. And so the choirs are going to be featured, and we're going to have some pieces where we've got everybody performing all together, some where it's just a small group, and in fact, sometimes just one instrument is playing with the singers. So we hope that that kind of dynamicism will make for a really enjoyable and fun evening.
And so, you know, when it comes to the arrangements and the orchestrations which you're preparing for this concert, you had chats with Gary, and you know, what was your sense of the approach for the orchestrations?
Yeah, sure. Actually, this sort of reminds me of a little conversation Gary and I had, because in the R&B tradition, there's actually a very strong tradition of having orchestra musicians play with the band, especially sort of in the 60s and 70s. So in a way, we feel a little bit like it's like a revitalization. We're bringing that tradition back. And so there's going to be some absolutely wailing violins, of course, and the brass. And so it should be like, this isn't just an R&B concert. It's an orchestra concert with singing, and it's going to, I think the arranging also was fairly straightforward in a way, because there's all these sounds already in the orchestration of the songs. It was really more me just pulling those sounds out, giving them to the orchestra instruments. So in many ways, we're holding to the sound of the original songs, but of course, they're going to get a slightly different flavor and tone on stage with actually, I guess at times there's going to be almost 100 people on stage performing, actually. So it should be quite epic.
And then there's one song near the end of this program that's quite special that you both decided to bring in.
Yeah, sure. I'll just talk a little bit about that, and maybe Gary, you could as well. But we had originally they've recorded the song "He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother." That's the song we're talking about. Beautiful rock ballad, and it's originally, actually, the McAuley Boys had recorded this song on one of their albums a cappella. So, and Gary had suggested to me, say, hey, what do we do this? And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be really great? We'll have this beautiful a cappella moment in the concert. And then as the program progressed, we thought, you know, this song really has a lyric and a meaning that is really powerful and meaningful to us as the kind of message we want to send of peace and sort of, you know, humanity, love, and taking care of each other, you know, a real powerful Christmas message. And Gary had suggested that I suggested, it came out in conversation, hey, why don't we do this song and orchestrate it and make this now our big closing piece for the concert? So, you know, the arrangements go in various different ways, how they go down. As I was saying, most of the songs we're doing from the Christmas album, in a way, it's just sort of a lift from the album, and we're presenting that song very similarly. However, with this one, it decided to make it more of an expansive arrangement and having instrumental sections, adding a verse, an introduction. There will be some a cappella as well. So it's really turned into quite a large work to close the evening, and also bringing everybody that's performing together for the final performance.
So Gary, having lived in London for so many years, it seems a natural that the McAuley Boys would perform with orchestra. Like, have you guys done that before?
We have never sang with the sung. I did that last night. Sing sang sung with the orchestra here in London. Why we haven't? I don't know. But I think maybe we may have been seen as a little other than the local music landscape, because we were doing such international things. So I maybe but I'll say to you, working with Scott on this thing has been an absolute pleasure. He's got awesome musical sensitivities. Our back and forths were fluent. I like his interpretation of what it is that I was bringing. If I said something, I mean, he almost got it immediately. I'm looking forward to the next time we work together. We got to get this one first. But it is definitely a pleasure to be working with London Symphonia, and we're in this kind of a revitalization period of coming out of the pandemic, and seeing faces and seeing smiles, and watching people enjoy live music, and also people who are live music with people who are actually playing these beautiful acoustic instruments, which is a tradition that I think we can't afford to lose in our society. So I'm very happy to be able. I speak on behalf of the brothers when I say we're proud and honored to be working with them, and really looking forward to the show.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, thanks so much, Gary. And I just wanted to add, likewise as well. We've had such a wonderful time putting this concert together, really enjoyable, and it's been both pleasant and productive. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's the nature of those collaborations, right? It's like a little Venn diagram. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but then there's this common ground where that's where the magic happens. And good spirit of intention and open mind, and yeah, that's served London Symphonia really well, and we're really glad that the McAuleys are on for this journey. So for your fans out there, just tell me what are the plans now for the McAuley Boys? You released a new single just last year or earlier this year. I can't wait to see you smile, and tell me what are your future ambitions?
Well, I Can't Wait to See You Smile was a song that we have so many songs in the kitty. And probably some will never see the light of day because we just wrote volumes of stuff, and you can't release it all. But Mark and Randy were working on this tune some time ago, and then the pandemic hit. And when we couldn't see people's faces, Mark mentioned to the guys, he said, you know what, I think I Can't Wait to See You Smile would be perfect if we could put this out, and just it's this kind of like hopeful, aspirational, thing about seeing each other again. And so it came out on the heels of it, and people were starting to take the masks off. So it made a lot of sense to sing about just waiting to see someone smile, and it kind of we knew we had fans, but we didn't realize we had fans. Like we've got fans in interesting pockets of the globe, and to hear them say, "Oh, it's so good to see you back. When is the next one? Then is the next one." So we're just kind of, perhaps we're putting it together for another one. So you may see something in the future, a project coming from us.
Very cool. Thanks for your time today to both of you. Really looking forward to our concert December 9th at Metropolitan United. This will be performed live and, of course, live streamed, video on demand, available for 3 weeks after. We give it all.
I also want to say shout out to the Met choirs. We're looking forward to being on stage with them as well, with all those beautiful voices, young and old. And you're talking about choir, beautiful orchestra, and like a four-brother pop group in the front. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So
Totally.
looking forward to it.
Thank you to you both. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Andrew. Bye.
You got it. Take care.